The story begins with Jensen Ames, an industrial worker and ex-convict. One day, he learns that the steel mill where he works is shutting down and won't be paying the workers their full wages. Frustration grows among the employees, and a protest erupts outside the factory. As tensions escalate, anti-riot police arrive, responding aggressively to even the slightest provocation. When Jensen sees his co-workers being beaten, he steps in, fighting back and taking down a few officers in the chaos. By the time Jensen gets home that night, he's exhausted. He greets his wife and heads upstairs to check on their baby, completely unaware that a masked intruder has broken into the house. While Jensen is upstairs, the intruder seizes the opportunity and brutally murders his wife in the kitchen. As Jensen returns downstairs, the masked man ambushes him from behind, knocking him unconscious. Before leaving, the killer places the murder weapon in Jensen's hand and makes a taunting shooting gesture with his gloved hand. Jensen has been framed. Moments later, the police arrive and arrest Jensen for his wife's murder. 6 months later, Jensen is transferred to Terminal Island Prison. Upon arrival, he is greeted by a ruthless guard, Rick, who sprays him with freezing water and allows another officer to hit him. Jensen is then escorted to his cell, which he shares with 3 other inmates. That night, they try to beat him up, but when the guards return later, they find Jensen standing victorious while his cellmates lie unconscious. The next morning, Jensen heads to the mess hall for breakfast. He's quietly observed by prisoners' coach, gunner, and lists, who recognize him as a former champion driver whose record-breaking career ended in tragedy. Suddenly, 2 inmates, Pinko and his friend, approach him. They taunt Jensen, calling him a wife killer and child abuser before spitting in his food. Jensen snaps and attacks Pinko, but before the fight escalates, guards intervene and drag him away. Jensen is taken to meet Warden Claire Hennessy, who knows all about his past as a phenomenal driver. She makes him an offer to take on the role of Frankenstein, a legendary masked racer in the deadly death race. The real Frankenstein died on the operating table after his last race, but the public doesn't know this. To keep the myth alive and boost the show's ratings, Hennessy needs a replacement. According to the rules, a driver earns their freedom after winning 5 races. Frankenstein had already won 4, meaning Jensen needs just one more victory to be released. But Jensen hesitates as risking his life in a lethal race isn't a decision he takes lightly. Hennessy, however, won't take no for an answer. She threatens him with solitary confinement to ensure he keeps her secret. Left with no choice, Jensen agrees. Jensen is taken to the prison's auto shop, where he meets Coach and his team of the mechanics responsible for Frankenstein's car. They explain the race rules: every team operates independently, and there's no helping each other. Jensen is introduced to his vehicle, a heavily modified Mustang V8 fastback equipped with offensive and defensive gadgets. However, no ammunition is loaded onto the car until race day to prevent escape attempts. Escape isn't an option anyway. The prison is on an island, and the only way out is a narrow bridge swarmed with police cars and helicopters at the first sign of a breakout. Coach briefs Jensen on the race structure. It's divided into 3 stages. 1. The first 2 stages focus on eliminating opponents. 2. The final stage is all about speed crossing the finish line first. Each driver has a navigator, usually a woman from the nearby women's prison. The only exception is Joe, who uses a male team member instead. Joe has a reputation for quickly going through navigators, unsettling even the audience. Jensen is also introduced to the key racers. 14K, a trial member and MIT graduate, Hector Grimm, a psychopath who idolizes Hennessy. Slovopakenko, the leader of the Aryan Brotherhood. Travis Colt, a disgraced ex-NASCAR star. Just then, Jensen notices something strange. A van arrives, returning prisoners from a work detail. They wear GPS tracking bracelets. It triggers a memory his wife's killer was wearing the same bracelet the night she was murdered. On race day, Jensen is given Frankenstein's outfit, mask, and even his signature ring. His appearance alone brings back viewers the show had lost. Before the race, his navigator, Case, tells him she's in prison for killing her abusive cop husband. The first lap isn't too violent, as weapons aren't activated until the second lap. However, drivers still try to ram each other off the track. Thanks to Case's knowledge of the course, Jensen manages to stay ahead of Joe. Once the second lap begins, weapons activate. Chaos erupts as the race turns into a full-scale battle. One driver, Graham, takes advantage of a deadly track obstacle to kill another competitor. But before he can celebrate, 14K launches a missile at him, forcing him off the track. Joe finishes him off by running him over. Jensen struggles when his machine gun malfunctions. Case climbs onto the hood to fix it, dodging a hail of bullets. Thanks to Jensen's sharp driving, she makes it back safely. Jensen later takes out Colt using a risky trick. He ejects Case's seat, which is carrying a napalm canister. It lands on Colt's car, and she ignites it using a lighter, setting the vehicle ablaze. Distracted by the race, Jensen suddenly notices Pinko making a familiar hand gesture, the same one his wife's killer used. Stunned, Jensen loses focus, giving Joe the chance to slam his car, pushing him to last place. By the end of the race, 3 drivers are dead, and 6 remain. Back in the garage, Jensen is frustrated and suspicious. He confronts Hennessy, accusing her of framing him for his wife's murder, rigging the race, and using Pinko to lure him into taking Frankenstein's place. She doesn't confirm his suspicions but instead threatens him, showing him a picture of his daughter, now in foster care. If he wants to see her again, he must play along. Determined to get answers, Jensen follows Pinko that night. He's ambushed but fights back, ultimately forcing Pinko to confess. Hennessy ordered him to kill Jensen's wife, and Rick brought him to the house. The next day, during the second race, Jensen executes his revenge. He flips his car backward and guns down Pinko's vehicle. After causing a crash, he steps out and snaps Pinko's neck in cold blood. As the final race looms, Jensen realizes Hennessy has rigged it and no one has ever won their 5th race because she ensures they never make it out alive. He devises an escape plan with Joe, using an explosive trick to blast through a weak wall in the track. As the police chase them, Jensen drops a reserve fuel tank, causing an explosion that blocks their pursuers. Meanwhile, Case, wearing Frankenstein's mask, surrenders to the cops, making everyone think Frankenstein has been captured while Jensen successfully escapes. In prison, Rick receives a mysterious gift. Inside, the bomb he had planted under Jensen's car. Coach detonates it, killing both Rick and Hennessy. 6 months later, Jensen and Joe have started a new life in Santa Rosalia, Mexico. They now run an auto shop together, and Jensen has regained custody of his daughter. Case, finally free, visits them, bringing a racing car for them to check out. Jensen may have escaped the death race, but one thing is clear: he was always meant to be behind the wheel. Subscribe for more videos like this and get hooked with Buzzika.